Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Got quite a few of the Cymbidiums to repot. I don't know how far I'm going to get before I actually run out of bark, but I'm going to make a start today on this one. It's flowered, it's finished flowering, it's coming into growth, it's got some new growth progressing quite well and others just starting. So various growths at various stages. As a consequence, they will probably all mature at different times, which means when it blooms next time round, or should I say if? No, let's say when. When it blooms next time round, it might be a staggered blooming. It depends really on how it sort of progresses. But anyway, we need to get this, I want this repotted purely because I don't like this fibrous media. The problem is it's unknown. It can stay incredibly wet. It can be brilliant. But my problem is Cymbidiums, mainly terrestrial or at least semi-terrestrial, they don't need clear pots as such. They would prefer to be in the dark. Therefore you can't see what's going on with the roots. If I've got a mix that's a good portion of bark, I know that it can't get too wet and stay too wet. These are going outside for the summer, and in this country you can get a month of rain in the summer, which means they would never dry out. Well, at least with an airy mix the water will go through. It might stay wet, but it's not going to be soggy wet with very little airspace. So that's the main reason for doing it. This hasn't been out of the pot since I got it, so I haven't got a clue what sort of roots we've got. And it's usually a fight to get them out of the pot. I need to get something I can get hold of. First problem is getting it out of the pot. There's an awful lot of new growths on this one. Awful lot. But it's well in the pot at the moment. There we go, it's moving. Oh, look at that root system. Wonderful. Now the chances are this is going to go straight back in the same pot. Lovely, lots of root tips, lots of root activity. Need to take care, but unlike some orchids, Cymbidium roots that are damaged, not rotten, damaged, will branch. They actually branch very easily. So if you damage your root system when you're repotting a Cymbidium, it'll come back. There's lots of new roots starting at the base, as well as what we've already got. You often find with Cymbidiums as well that you've got a central core. Do you know, if this was much tighter in the pot, I would pot it on. So there's very few old rotten roots in here. There are a couple, but there aren't that many. Most of the roots are reasonable. The problem being that you can't get into the centre of the plant to get the old media out. You just have to break in there, if that's what you choose to do. And I would prefer to get as much of this media out as possible. I don't need to get every bit of it out, but I need enough of it out to stop it remaining too wet. I mean, this was watered, when did I water the Cymbidiums? A few days ago, and it's wringing wet. It hasn't made any effort to dry off at all. You just have to keep teasing away. And you will find most of your rotten roots are in the centre of the pot, like this one. Now I'm going to sort of move around a bit into this bit. I'm going to have a job to do much with that. That's a solid mass of roots. That's a smashing mass of roots, that bit. If you look at the plant, this is the older part of the plant here, even though it's got new growths coming. That's why there's far less roots in this area, but there are some. I just have to keep teasing away with it, and I'll probably get rid of most of the media from behind this root mass and not disturb it that much, provided I can get most of these roots out, most of the media out. And just remember, when you're mucking about like this, you're putting a lot of effort, almost brute force, into dealing with the root mass while holding the plant. Don't hold it right next to your tender new growths, will you? Because when you look round, you'll find you've probably broken them off where you're holding the plants so tight. I've got my hand nowhere near the smaller new growths, yeah, so I shouldn't be damaging them. Section here is just not coming apart at all easily. Looks a bit brutal, doesn't it? That's good. As long as it comes apart enough, I can get the worst of the media out. As I say, I don't need to get every bit out, just get the worst of it out. Very vigorous root systems on Cymbidiums. But as you can see, there are old rotten roots in the centre of this plant. Dirt all over my shirt. I think we might be somewhere near it now. Now I'm going to get my scissors and now I'm going to hack at what are obviously old tired roots as best I can, most of which are in the middle of the plant. And this will free up space for new roots to grow. It's not just a matter of taking the old roots out, it's creating space. You never get them all. Now what would be a good thing to do with this plant would be dip it in a bucket of water and give it a good shake. That would free up an awful lot more of the media. But I haven't got a bucket that I can do that with at the moment. I think that'll do. As I said, there's no need to get every old root out. You need to get every bit of the old media out, as long as there's plenty of room for the new media to get in between the roots. I think that'll do. And I'm going to put this back in the same pot. simply because looking at the size of the growths, this is in fact virtually a miniature. So the bulbs don't get huge looking at the oldest bulbs, and looking at where the new growths are, there's plenty of room in this pot. They like to be tight, so we'll get it back in the same pot. So we'll have a clear up, and then we'll mix up some media. So I'll be back. Okay, I'll just tip the camera up so that you can see the mix. Now this is small bark, perlite, so that's the basis, and then it's got quite a large amount of pumice in here, and also some garden compost. So that's really, it's the garden compost that turns it into a terrestrial mix as opposed to non-terrestrial mix. That's the dirt bit that's in there. Why did I add pumice in when I've already got perlite? Weight. Adding stones into the mix stops it compacting, but the perlite does that anyway, but it adds weight, whereas the perlite makes it lighter. She makes it super light in a lot of cases if you add a lot. Right, so as I said, this can go back in the same pot, but I can centralise it so that there's room for all the new growths. Trouble working with plants this big. I'm only going to put a drop in the bottom. These roots went right down to the bottom, and I don't want plants sticking out the top of the pot. Just making sure I'm tucking all the root ends into the pot, especially the new ones, the new tips. There we go. Now what we've got to do is get it into the centre of the pot, and then we start jamming the media in. Now you're working with different types of orchids, virtually all of the rest of my collection here, because where you're working with something that is more terrestrial than anything else, you actually want quite a compact root system, the sort of equivalent of the ground basically. So you don't want it all light and airy. It doesn't work, they don't work like that. These roots like to burrow in. So you can actually get your media quite well packed into the pot. They like to be firm. So we've got the plant somewhere in the middle there. So I'm just re-looking to make sure we really have got enough room for all of the new growths to move out towards the edge of the pot, and then we can just top up. And there is no way I've got enough media to repot these Cymbidiums. I've got other orchids to do as well, which is going to use some of the bark. So we are going to run out, and quite honestly I might actually have to take, well, not have to, but would take a trip to Burnham's to get some. I'd prefer to get the bark from Peter White, but we haven't got a show. There isn't a show coming up. I'm not going to the NEC, which would have been the first one in June, and even that's quite, you know, that's too far away. I could do with some bark pretty soon. So to be able to choose and see what I want, I'd need to go somewhere, and the only place that would make a nice day out as well as coming home with the bark is to go to Burnham's. So we might schedule in a trip to Burnham's and come back with some bark. It's the sort of thing, the trip will be nice, you know, have some nice breakfast on the way, have a look around the nursery, have a chat, all that sort of stuff. But the primary goal will be to come back with a couple of pretty large bags of bark basically, and not have to pay any postage. The postage would pay for half the fuel, literally. Postage from Burnham's is very expensive. I'll have a look at Peter White's site and see how much he charges for postage. But the trouble is with bags of bark, it's the bulk that you're paying for. They are big things to transport, not necessarily heavy, there's not a lot of weight there. Anyway, that's that one done. Plenty of room round all the edges for nice new growths coming on, as young as that. This one's pushing on, one in the middle of the plant. This one's growing on quite well. This one's the most farthest advanced. And then we've got a couple close together here. Yeah, so there's a good few new growths on there. In theory, each one should spike when it matures. So end of the season, we'll put our label back in, and that's one done. See, now there are some other orchids when I do a repot, I might do 3 or 4 at once. These are actually quite exhausting to do. You're dealing with a bulky plant, there's weight there, you know, you're struggling to get the roots to break apart and actually get the old media out. They're actually quite hard work. So these are more of a one at a time. Until we get to repotting ones that I've potted, which will be in the bark, the basic bark mix, similar to this. In which case, it should come apart better. That's the theory anyway. So that's one done. I shall update my notes accordingly. That's it for today. Today being Friday. Later today I will film the results of the voting on the 2025 Project Orchids. I will post that tomorrow, Saturday, because I'm out most of the day tomorrow at the Orchid Society meeting. So that at least means there's a video for tomorrow, but I will have filmed it today. And then we'll have a Sunday chat on Sunday. It's all in the name, you know. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.